Well, I want to welcome everybody tonight. We are so glad you're here. This has been a beautiful winter, but we don't need beautiful, we need moisture. So we all have some things to think about, and we have a lot of people here that can help a lot of us with some of the problems that we may have this spring and summer with as dry as it's been. So welcome to the Conifer Area Council's April 2026 Town Hall meeting. We're so glad you're here. A very special thanks to Core Electric Cooperative and to Christy and Tiffany from Remax Alliance for their community support of tonight's meeting. And I'd also like to thank Sharon with My Mountain Town for promoting Conifer Area Council, Conifer Jazzercise for providing water, and Marketing Type Guys, Conifer Area Council's webmaster, for an amazing updated website. We have so much information, and you can go to that and get a lot of information that you will hear tonight and that has been on a lot of other town hall meetings. For all of you who did complete the Conifer Community Survey, thank you so much. Your input really matters. We have a new library, we have trails, and so much more because of your input in the past. And we can't wait to see what happens after the survey results this time, because those survey results will go to every county agency, state agency, and they will know what you want. And so it really helps to get what we want up here. So are you ready for an hour of awesome speakers with incredible information? So that we can get the most information from our experts, we ask that you hold your comments and questions until the end, till about 8 o'clock, so that we can get the best information possible. And then at about 8 o'clock, you'll again have a chance to talk to all of the presenters and everybody at the tables, and we have a lot of them that we'll introduce in a little bit, but you can talk to them personally at about 8 o'clock. So what's going on around here? First of all, we have Beth Schneider. She is the director of the Conifer Chamber of Commerce, and she's going to tell you.
Thank you, Shirley. Good evening, everyone. Again, thank you for having us here tonight to talk about the great things happening in our community. I'm going to try to be really quick because we have so much good information to get through tonight. But I want to start with our annual awards celebration that is happening this Friday and next week. I just want to honor some of the nominees. A few of them are here. I think Sharon is here somewhere. There she is. So we have several businesses and individuals that we honor every year for the great work that they do in our community. So our Ambassador of the Year nominees are Dana Johansson, Jessica Gentry, Jackie Cook, and our Rookie Business of the Year. And Rookie Business of the Year is a business that's been part of the community for 2 years or less. So those businesses are Ripple Pizza and Ice Cream, Scenic Drive Apparel and Gifts, Tuffy's Playhouse, Taylor Family Dental, and Dawn's Time. So we're excited to honor them as well as our Business of the Year. So there's 2 categories, Business of the Year and Home-Based Business of the Year. And the only difference between those 2 is some of them work from their home and some of them have a brick and mortar building here in town. So the Business of the Year nominees are Conifer Radio, Generation Skincare, Handyman Connection, Conifer Counseling, and Altitude Financial Partners. Our home-based Business of the Year nominees are Thrive in Wellness, Image Marketing, Wild Iris Marketing, Triumph Electric, and My Mountain Town. And then we also have one of my special awards, or my favorite awards, are the Norman F. Meyer. And this award is named after Norman F. Meyer because of the great contributions that he made to our community. And the individuals that are nominated for this are members of the chamber or not. They don't need to be affiliated with the business. It's just someone who does great work. Punky Kiefer was our winner last year. And the nominees this year are Dosha Boylan, Jody Dolph, Charla Wright, Carla Mink, and Mindy Hansen. And our Nonprofit of the Year nominees are Resilience 1220, the Conifer Community Nest, Peaceworks, Bootstraps, and Conifer Community Church. So if you haven't voted yet, please go to goconifer.com and take a minute to vote for those, as well as there's 5 photos on there that are going to be voted on to be the cover of the community directory. And this directory is going out to 10,000 houses along the 285 corridor. So I just ask for you to keep an eye out for this in your mailbox. It's not only businesses listed in here, there's a lot of really valuable information. Some of the things that you're going to be hearing here tonight are going to be featured in this, so you'll have that as a reference for you. And then one more thing before I head off the stage, we do have our 285 cleanup coming this summer. So if you'd like to help keep 285 clean, we'd love to see you. The dates for those cleanups are May 23rd, June 20th, August 8th, and September 2nd. And we just meet up at the Aspen Park and Ride, and we go and clean up certain segments of the highway. So if you see anybody out there, and if you're not out there, please honk and wave and say thank you to them. And thank you again for being here tonight, and thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Beth. Okay, next we have co-founder Dennis Page. He's with the Rotary Club of Conifer Peace Park. Dennis.
Imagine all the world, or I should say people, living life in peace. That is a quote by John Lennon that's on a rock at our Peace Park. Our Peace Park is set up for everybody. It's an open park. It was established in 2023 by Conifer Rotary and other community members. It's located on Sutton Road, right behind the Aspen Park Community Center, and I must say I have to thank them too for helping this park come together. We have a booth back there if you want to find out more information about it. But it's basically a nonprofit, all volunteer-based. We have a wide range of activities that go on during the summer. If you take a look at this, you'll see that we focus on the arts because we feel that peace can be done in many ways to create peace, not only in ourselves, but in the greater community too. So these particular activities will focus on art, music, poetry, storytelling, and wind up closing up with the International Day of Peace. The park is designed as an indigenous design, honoring the four directions. There's a big rock in the middle, honoring the heart, and with native shrubs around it. We plan to continue on with this particular effort to make people come together and celebrate the power of peace within ourselves, because we know it's there. And that park, so far, we're going into our third season, clearly indicates that this is possible. For more information, we have email. You can contact Conifer Peace Park at gmail.com and the Facebook at Conifer Peace Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. And they have a little setup just back there if you're interested. So next we have Jake, who's the District Wildlife Manager of Colorado Parks and Wildlife. He's going to be talking about mountain lions and bears and all that kind of stuff. Yes.
You nailed it. 2 minutes. Here we go. My name is Jake Somberg. I'm the game warden here in Conifer with Colorado Parks and Wildlife. Just want to take a minute and debrief kind of the lion incidents that were going on in Pleasant Park and Deer Creek over the last couple of months. So between January and March, we got 9 confirmed incidents regarding mountain lion sightings, dog attacks, and eventually a livestock depredation. And on March 29th, we were able to, there was a livestock depredation that allowed us to set a trap and eventually euthanize a lion, okay? So 27th, the depredation occurred. That allowed us to utilize tools, including these lethal traps, in order to trap and kill this lion. It was an adult tom, roughly 6 to 8 years old, about 160 pounds, in relatively poor body condition. So I can't be sure 100% that this is the lion that was causing the problems, but I am fairly confident that it was. You know, that said, that doesn't mean we're out of the woods with lion conflicts. We've got lots of lions in Conifer, and you guys need to be aware that, you know, if you live up here, you may experience lion conflict. So be aware of that. Secondly, we got tons and tons of secondhand reports on this conflict. We can't use that data to make decisions. If you're experiencing conflict directly, you need to call us and report it yourselves, okay? And then third of all, the traps that we can use are great, but we can only use them in certain circumstances. Regulated hunting is our #1 management tool. So if you can do it safely, ethically, and legally, that's a great thing. Final plug for some spring wildlife stuff. Bears are out. They're causing conflicts. Keep your bird feeders and your trash away. Calving and fawning season is around the corner. Babies are going to be on the ground soon. Be aware of that. Moms are super territorial. And to my spring turkey hunters, good luck. That opened last weekend. Take a picture of that. There's some contact info for me and our offices. We'll be in the corner here, myself and Brady, the officer out of Bailey. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Jake. So next, we obviously have had a really dry winter. And so I'm hearing of some people are having troubles with their wells. Water availability is always a concern. Peter Barkman is with our water team, study action team, and he's going to talk just a little bit about that.
Thanks, Shirley. Yeah, our Water Resources Study Action Team is a group that we gather and evaluate and report on groundwater levels in our wells, because that's our source of water. District water use, we've got 3 commercial districts in the community, and general water quality conditions. I think let's see, how's this thing work? There we go. You've seen this map. This isn't news to you. This is the entire Central Rocky Mountain region. We're not alone in this. This is a pretty severe drought. We are sitting right on the edge of the darkest blotch there, which is exceptional drought. We're somewhere around extreme to severe. And so this is historic. That's what's happening across the entire West. You've probably seen this in the news too, that says snowpack. This is in the South Platte drainage. And when you look at that blob of colors, this is snowpack through the year, how it builds up and then drops off. The green line in the middle of all the color is the median over this period of record is back to 1991. This year is that black line on the bottom. We're boldly going where no man has gone before. This is pretty severe. So what does that mean for our water levels in our well? We've been looking at water levels in some wells that are part of the Conifer Metro District that have continuous loggers in them. The solid blue line on the upper part of this graph is a water level from a well near the elementary school. And you can see the ups and downs on that. The highs are spring, and we believe that's snow melt that makes the water level come up. The black lines are 5-year trends. And then the orange are drought cycles that we've had. When you look at the big drought of 2002, and then the water level in this well started going up after that drought. That well had suffered from that drought and recovered, and then it flattened out. You can see some ups and downs, and they kind of correspond to droughts. Now we're going into another drought that's probably going to be as bad or worse than the one on the start of this graph, and we're already heading down because last year was pretty lean. So I think we can count on our water levels dropping. So what can you do? Know your well. Find out what the depth of the well is, what the water level is, and what your pump setting is. Be prepared. Find out who will work on wells. Line up water resources. Do you need a cistern? Conserve, conserve, conserve. Watch out for your neighbors. They're in this too. They may need help if you've got water. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Peter. And then we have Heather Gutherless. She's with Jeffco Planning and Zoning. She's the planning supervisor, long-range planning. She's going to talk a little bit, I think, about development, but also water, right? There you go.
Yeah, thanks, Shirley. I am going to talk about water. So I'm going to go very quickly through the development part of the presentation. There is information that is posted on the website about development cases that we send to the Conifer Area Council every month. There are 34 cases on that list right now. There are 3 new pre-applications, 2 rezoning updates, and 1 site development plan update. I am only going to briefly go through the pre-applications and very briefly. I've seen other presentations. I'm going to try to be quicker. So pre-applications are preliminary requests, basically kind of a search for answers from people that want to develop their property with planning and zoning. One of the cases that we have that is new is up off of Turkey Creek Road, and it is a subdivision application. So they don't have to rezone their property. They have the zoning in place, and they want to subdivide into 6 lots, and it is about 68 acres. So they would be about 10-acre lots. Then there is a pre-application to rezone, and this is near Deer Creek Canyon Road. And the property is zoned agricultural 2. They want to rezone to just a portion of their lot. Let's see if I can do they just want to rezone a portion of it where there is already a house to allow for a subdivision for 5 acres for the house, and then the rest of it would remain agricultural 2, so 10-acre lot sizes. And then lastly, there's a pre-application that is off of Kitty Drive and 285. It's zoned currently for commercial uses. They want to rezone to continue to allow some of the commercial uses, but to also include warehousing on the site. So these are all preliminary applications. There's not a formal application on these, but if there are any rezonings, there would be community meetings that would need to be held before the applicant can make a formal submittal. A couple other things that I just want to note really quickly is that the Board of County Commissioners adopted a new wildfire resiliency code on March 10th, and this will go into effect on July 1st. This updates our standards that we currently have on defensible space and building hardening. So this will affect people that are doing building permits after July 1st. And then last week, seems like yesterday, last week, the Planning Commission adopted the Jefferson County Comprehensive Plan. And this is a guide for growth and development in the county into the future, not just looking at growth, but where growth maybe isn't most appropriate. I have a copy of that back at the table if you're interested in talking to me more about that later. But mainly tonight, I wanted to talk about the regulations that Jefferson County has in place for new developments as they come in regarding specifically water. The county acknowledges that water is a critical issue in the county, and especially up in the mountains where most of the water for developments comes from wells and groundwater. So back in 2007, we established the Mountain Groundwater Overlay District. And this district is in this blue area on the map. It's mainly the mountainous areas. And it applies to any areas that are not served by a water and sanitation district. So like in the Evergreen area, they have a water and sanitation district. These regulations would not apply to them. And it only applies, the area where it is in the area of fractured crystalline rock, and that's a special geologic area in the county. So like I said, this only applies to new development. So it doesn't apply to existing development. There's nothing new that somebody would have to do for this. But if you wanted to come in and say rezone your property or subdivide, we do have regulations that people have to meet in order to demonstrate that there is adequate legal and physical water. The development applications that this applies to, the applicants need to provide additional information from what somebody that is not in this area would have to provide. So some of those things include an estimate of water requirements for the proposed uses. They have to provide information about legal rights to water, and that documentation really differs depending on where you're at in the process, how far along you are. As you get further along, you have to submit more intense documentation. After the county gets that documentation, then we plug it into what's called our water availability analysis. And this is a worksheet along with a GIS model that I'll go through in a little bit that really helps us determine whether there would be enough water in the future. And then depending on the results of that water availability analysis, an aquifer test may be required. And that depends on the threshold that might need to be met. And it also differs, again, with the request. So it gets a little bit more strict as you move further along in the development process. So the water availability analysis, this is a really cool tool that was developed back when we were doing the Mountain Groundwater Overlay District. And we were able to coordinate with not just our county geologist, who's very smart, I must say, but we also coordinated with the Colorado Division of Water Resources, the Colorado Geologic Survey, the USGS, and citizens, water consultants, and developers. And so we consulted with a lot of very smart people in order to create this model. and this worksheet that we've put together. The WA, we call it the WA, a water availability analysis, and it really creates a standardized approach to evaluating water supply. Before this, it was kind of like we would try to be figuring out with each application what we were going to require people to submit and how we would evaluate it. So this is a really consistent approach to how we evaluate development applications. And because of that, it really provides the opportunity for our decision makers to have a consistent evaluation of those proposed uses. So next I'm going to show you, this is a picture of one of our WAs. It generates a map and there's also an Excel worksheet that goes along with it. That's not as exciting to look at. The area in the pink is a sub-basin watershed. And I'm going to go very quickly at this point. The land area of the project is shown in red, and then all those yellow dots are the wells in that watershed. So we look at all the wells that are in the watershed, what they're allowed to use, and then whether there would be enough recharge from both precipitation, and I know that you guys are probably all aware of this from your septic systems as well, recharges those wells. We look at that and determine whether there would be enough water in that basin to support the application in the future. For building permits, we also have some additional regulations. Used to only require legal proof of water, so the well permit. Now people have to also do a 4-hour well test. And if they don't meet a certain threshold, then they have to show that they have the ability to store water in a cistern or in their well bore. Because the county only looks at what new developments are looking at, I did reach out to some of our partners with Jefferson County Public Health and the Division of Water Resources, and they have some additional information for folks about what to do, like if you are experiencing issues with your well. And Division of Water Resources also provided me with a list of websites where there might be funding available to help people who are having issues. And I have some copies of this at the table in the back. So if anybody has questions about that, and I'd be happy to talk about that more after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather, as always. So next we have Commissioner Leslie Dalkemper. She's going to be talking we're going to go a little bit more into wildfire preparation, mitigation, all of those things that we really have to think about this year. Leslie.
Great. Thanks so much, Shirley. It is wonderful to see you all tonight. I'm Leslie Dalkemper, one of your 3 Jeffco commissioners. I serve on the Board of County Commissioners with Andy Kerr and Rachel Zenzinger. And I think your presence here tonight and the fact that we have an overflow parking lot is a real testament to the emphasis that we place on building greater wildfire resiliency. And we simply cannot do this work without our community. It takes each one of us playing different roles as we move this work forward. There are a couple of areas I'd like to highlight tonight to share with you. And I know you'll be hearing from Jeffco Open Space in just a moment. You'll be hearing from leaders of our Wildland Fire Management Program, Jeffco Sheriff's Office, and others. And they are just tremendous leaders. We work alongside our fire rescue districts, our wildfire ambassadors, alongside our Jeffco Wildfire Commission as well. So just a few things I wanted to share in particular, which I think really demonstrate the breadth and depth of our work to keep our community safe. One, excited to announce that Jefferson County Parks and Open Space has been awarded a $750,000 state grant to fund wildfire risk reduction work at Reynolds Park. The project will treat up to 100 acres, reducing fuels, improving forest health, and helping protect nearby neighborhoods, businesses, and evacuation routes. We know that forest health improvement is one of multiple strategies we use to ensure we're building greater wildfire resiliency. The other issue, and I know this was a topic that also resulted in a standing room only crowd, and that is the mountain pine beetle. It is staggering to think that this little beetle that is no bigger than the size of a grain of rice can do so much damage. We are continuing the Mountain Pine Beetle Landowner Assistance Program, and this program helps private property owners remove actively infested trees, offering a 50% reimbursement for mitigation work. And it's a practical way to slow the spread of infestation and reduce wildfire risk across both private and public lands. And you may hear more about that tonight as well. I want to also recognize our Jefferson County voters, those of you who approved 1A 2 years ago. It was 1A funding that helped to seed the dollars for this grant. And speaking of that pesky beetle, I am proud to serve on the statewide Mountain Pine Beetle Task Force. I mention this because I want you to know that Jefferson County has a voice at the table as we look at how we best tackle this outbreak. Not a new issue for Colorado, but we're looking for bold, innovative solutions and ideas, thoughts that you have. Please share them with us. We appreciate it. We already held our second meeting just 2 weeks ago in Jefferson County. In addition to the voter approval that allows for homeowner grants, we also approved, county commissioners, $7 million for the new wildland fire management program housed in the Jeffco Sheriff's Office. We have our Jeffco Sheriff Office representatives with us tonight, and we are also looking for future homeowner grants for home hardening, defensible space. We know how important this is to you. We've heard you and you've told us that. And so we're working very closely with Brian Keating and his team to develop what that looks like here in Jefferson County. You heard about the WUI building codes. I won't talk about those. We are watching what's happening at the legislative level as well. We testified an effort to slow down implementation of WUI building codes. It is such a critical step in terms of building safely in the wildland-urban interface where our wildfire danger is 98% higher than other counties across the nation. And finally, I bet Jeffco Open Space will probably talk tonight about our slash collection season starting. I see Steve Murdoch nodding on that. And you have responded in a big way. Thank you for the work that you're doing to clear vegetation, create better defensible space around your home so those wildfires that come through don't have the fuel that we know fuels them and moves those fires faster and hotter across our community. Together with these efforts, forest thinning, beetle mitigation, new WUI building codes, and slash collection, all of these efforts are connected, and those are just a few examples of the many strategies we're taking to keep you, your family, and your homes and businesses safe. If you ever have questions for the board, reach out to commish@jeffco.us. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Now we have Brian Keating, and Brian is the Sheriff's Office Wildland Fire Manager, Program Manager. Brian.
Thanks, Shirley. Thanks, everyone, for having me here tonight. Thank you, Commissioner Dahlkemper. She hit on a number of different things that I was going to touch on as well, but appreciate you guys as the voters with the 1A ballot measure that's providing a lot of opportunities for us to build a program to support our communities and support our fire partners, as well as our county leadership and the sheriff and their unwavering support behind this program. So tonight, my focus is really just going to be on providing you some program updates on where we're at in terms of building this new county wildland fire program, and then touch on some other topics related to how you can be part of that solution, mitigation that you can do, and some evacuation preparedness. And so just to lead into it all, the county program that we're building, the wildland fire program, is really got three emphasis areas. One is increased capacity for fire response. That's to support our partners. Another component is proactive mitigation, getting out in the county and working with our partners to do strategic work on the landscape. And then the third component is around community engagement, community support programs for all our residents. Next slide. So to start off with mitigation and wildfire response, so really the overriding goal of the program is to support our partners. We're really focused on coordinating and facilitating. We'll lead where we need to. Your fire districts, Conifer Fire up here, Elk Creek Fire, really strong partners. And the programs that we're building are really meant to augment and support the work that they're doing and to fill in the gaps where we need to. So that's the emphasis area. And as part of that, we've got the Jeffco Risk Mitigation Working Group that we stood up. And so that's a coalition of over 30 different partners in the county. It consists of all of our fire protection districts, watershed collaboratives, Jeffco Parks and Open Space, Denver Mountain Parks. We've got utility companies as part of that collaborative, as well as our federal and state partners. So we convene regularly, or twice a year. We have meetings right now, and we identify projects across the landscape that have strategic value and that we want to implement to help protect our communities, our critical infrastructure, our watersheds, and such like that. The outcome of that group is a working list, a prioritized list of projects, and that's where our county crews are going to engage and get out there, and you're going to start to see some of them. The one thing that I would emphasize, that working group is really agencies and partners. You as private citizens, your voice at the table is working through your fire district. So knowing what your CWPP is, or being involved in that process, and then having your fire protection district be the representative in those meetings to advocate for projects that are important to you. So that's your voice in that effort. Again, I talked about strategic and prioritized projects. We've already got a big working list. It crosses all jurisdictions. We're working at the county level to get the authority to make sure we can work on all jurisdictions, and we anticipate that hopefully falling into place in the near future. Next. And then just where we're at. So staffing update. So our focus thus far, Commissioner Dahlkammer talked about the investment, the $7 million investment. That approved 37 new positions within the Sheriff's Office for this program. And so our initial focus has been on the wild and fire crews, the response and mitigation side of that. We've hired 80% of those personnel. We've also hired kind of our leadership team for the program, so that's all in place, and they've been busy the last 6 to 8 months getting things up and established. Starting this weekend on Sunday, we're moving to a 7-day coverage. So we're going to run an A and a B shift. So any day of the week throughout the season, we're going to have a battalion chief or a fire management officer. We're going to have a staffed engine, and we're going to have a staffed hand crew. So those are our vehicles out there. We've tried to standardize what our vehicles are looking like. So you're going to start to see some of those out in the community. That's a representative of this program. And over in the bottom right corner, that's the logo that we came up for the fire management program. So as I start to talk about the education and outreach, you're going to start to see that messaging as well. Next slide. So community engagement. So to start off, one thing I'm excited to say is that just yesterday we awarded a contract with Fireside. There's a lot of fire protection districts throughout the county that are already utilizing this software platform to support home assessment programs. And so the goal here again is the county's going to support and coordinate. So we're going to make this a standardized program for the county, and what our fire protection districts, the costs it's taking for them to subscribe to that, we're taking on those costs. So that puts more money locally for them to get out and do mitigation. It also allows us the ability to have a standardized program across the county and make sure that we're all speaking the same language when it comes to home assessments and making recommendations. So we'll still have many fire districts that will have their home assessment program, but we're adding to that. We're going to have a full-time crew of 6 folks that will be doing home assessments. And our plan right now is those will be free to homeowners. And once we launch the program, there'll be a lot of messaging around how you can sign up to get one of those assessments completed. Education and outreach. Similarly, we want, 1 minute, wow. We want a lot of consistency around that as well. So we have a working group that's working to develop consistent messaging. Next. Homeowner incentive program, Commissioner Dahlkamper mentioned that. Later this summer into the fall, we're hoping to set up an incentive program where homeowners who have had a home assessment can then apply and get some cost reimbursement to do mitigation on their property. Next. And then excited to announce just yesterday, we started our staff hiring process. So we posted 2 jobs yesterday. Our home assessment crew lead position and our education and outreach crew lead position. If folks are interested, you can always go to Jeffco Careers website and get more information on that. So next slide. So Again, I mentioned county wildfire protection plans. Those are really critical pieces of information to help you guys be informed. Next. Evacuation annex is another one. Next. We're just going to fly through these things. You can click them all. The resiliency code, so that's something new that was just recently adopted at the county level. We have a new wildfire resiliency code, and that's going to be the other regulatory piece to help make our communities safer. The county slash program, you're going to get some more from that in open space, so I'll pass that. Next. And then also, Commissioner Dahlkemper mentioned an open space, great resource to talk to about that mountain pine beagle program. Okay. Next. So again, for you guys, you can click through these specific actions. So it's not what the fire protection districts or what the county can do. We cannot solve the problem all ourselves. We really need you folks as partners to do your part. So having a home assessment up here in Conifer, they do home assessments. We're adding to that with the county program. Next. Creating that defensible space, your 0 to 5, no veg zone, your zone 2, your zone 3, becoming educated in what those are. Your home assessment's going to give you recommendations on how to implement those components. Next. And next. And then you'll also hear more about the slash program in terms of how to dispose of that biomass. Next. And then evacuation preparedness. Can't stress enough. Lookout alert. Make sure you're registered. That is our primary source to notify folks when there is an incident. So if you're not familiar with it, please search for that on the web and get registered. Home hardening, defensible space, we talked about that. Preparing a go bag, making sure you've got those important documents, key pieces of information, so that if you do have to evacuate, you've got your medicine and all the things that are critical to help you go through that evacuation exercise. Know your evacuation routes and know multiple routes if you've got them. Become familiar with them, drive them during the day and the night so you're familiar with them and you don't get tripped up during an incident. Practice those drills, like I said. And the underlying message is don't wait, evacuate. You don't have to be told by Lookout Alert or by the sheriff's office to evacuate. If you are concerned, be proactive and evacuate. That helps with traffic congestion. That helps get you out ahead of time so you're not so rushed. But certainly, if you get that evacuation order, please abide by that. And I think that's all I have. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Brian. That was great. So next we have Steve Murdoch. Steve is with Jefferson County Parks and Open Space, and he's going to talk about more wildfire stuff.
Just a couple updates from Parks and Open Space.
There you go.
Good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Steve Murdoch. I'm the Natural Resource Stewardship Manager with Jeffco Parks and Open Space, and I'm going to talk really quick, so I apologize for flying through these. We'll be in the corner if you have questions on any of these topics that we're happy to talk about later. So the first one that I have just to go over briefly is Beaver Ranch Park improvements. You've heard us talk about this in the past. I think in November we were here discussing that, and that is going to get started on May 7th. Sorry to keep the mic close. And that project is going to be system-wide. We're doing trailhead improvements, critical park infrastructure, restrooms, all of those things. And there will be a 3-week period during the project where the entire park needs to be closed. That's anticipated to be at the end of May. For updates on that project, you can sign up for alerts on our website. And then getting into the slash program that Commissioner Dahlkemper and Brian both mentioned. So our schedule is now out. We have rack cards on the table here that we can hand out. It's very similar to last year's schedule. We're going to get things kicked off on May 15th, and then we'll be working through the same rotational sites throughout the summer. We want to continue to look for opportunities to grow and expand so that we can better meet the needs. We understand that there's a high demand for this program, and we're continuing to do everything that we can to fill those needs. Again, same thing, you can sign up for updates on the slash program on our website. And then lastly, with the current setup, I want to just mention that we are going to accept pine beetle infested material down on our Tin Cup site only up until June 15th when the adults start to fly. We are not accepting it at the mountain sites due to the risk of spreading to surrounding areas. So only take that pine beetle infested material down to our tin cup site, not the rotational sites. And then the last slash program update that I have for you is we're continuing to explore the development of a mountain site up here closer to this community, similar to what we have down at Tin Cup. We're still in the design phase of that project, but currently we're exploring a site that's right next to station number 3 by Windy Point, what we're calling it our Settlers Drive location. Again, we're still going through all the designs. The next steps in that are for us to go through the planning and zoning process. We are not able to start any construction until we're through that process. And so we still have a few steps to get through, and we'll continue to provide more information on our website. There will be some upcoming open houses and community meetings to gather feedback on that. So if you're interested, I highly encourage you to attend. And then moving into some of our forest health projects that Commissioner Dahlkemper mentioned, this is on top of the targeted pine beetle work that our staff is continuing to do every day. So I'm just going to highlight the large scale projects that are going to have a whole park impact. The first one here is Meyer Ranch. This is going to be about 185 acres of treatment, and it's going to resemble recent projects that we've done at Beaver Ranch and at Meyer Ranch previously in 22. So that's what you can expect in terms of the outcome of that work. This will require a full park closure because we're going to, let me move to my next slide. We will be on both sides of the park, and so it's going to impact the majority of the trails. And so to keep everybody safe, we will be enacting a full park closure for the duration of that work. That is going to impact the Sliding Hill area, which I know is very popular over the winter. Part of our outreach is going to include alternative locations for recreating during this closure. So please keep an eye out for that. And then the last project that I have here to go over quickly is the grant-funded project that Commissioner Dahlkemper mentioned with Reynolds Park. This is going to be about 100 acres, and it's going to have a two-pronged approach. We're going to be treating an area that currently does not have pine beetle infestation to try to make those trees more resilient and hopefully sustained for the long term. But then there's a large area there where we have a significant amount of beetle kill, and we're going to be putting in a ridgetop fuel break to try to moderate some of the fire behavior were there to be a fire starting in that area. This will not require a full park closure. It's only going to be impacting a single trail there. So these park closures will be much smaller in duration and on a rolling basis. And again, updates for those can be found on our website as we have them. I will say with the Reynolds project, this one is right now expected to start at some point later in the winter. We need to work through all the contracting components of that. So there's a potential that that project gets pushed until next year, but our current plans are to do that this year. And I forgot to mention with Meyer, but that project is going to start in September. And with that, thank you. And again, please stop by if you have questions. I can talk about these in more detail.
Thanks, Steve. And we have a whole entourage from Open Space. The table back here has all kinds of people, all kinds of information, mountain pine beetle and everything else. And I also want to introduce Aaron Roth. Aaron, do you want to wave? Aaron is our new Open Space and Parks Director. So he has just taken over that position fairly recently. Aaron, welcome. And everybody go up and introduce yourself. So, okay. Next, we have Jordan Ambrosi with CORE, and he's going to be talking about evacuation routes and a lot more. Jordan.
Thanks, Shirley. Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan. I'm the Wildfire Mitigation Manager for CORE Electric Co-op. As Shirley mentioned, CORE has been partnering with Conifer Rotary to help clear evacuation routes along Highway 73, 126, and Pleasant Park Road currently. So our part of that work is any trees that need to come down to mitigate fuels along the evacuation route that are within 10 feet of our power lines. CORE will take those down free of charge. Conifer Rotary does need help, volunteers. So Laura is in the back sitting next to me if anybody wants to sign up to help with those fuel reduction projects. Another update from CORE, we are installing 2 more of our wildfire detection cameras down on Mount Bailey and up by Harris Park in Deer Creek Valley. So those will increase our coverage and tie in with the cameras that are currently on Conifer Mountain and Doublehead here that see smoke and automatically send alerts to CORE as well as the fire departments so they can get on that as soon as possible. And then I just wanted to also talk about the difference between our alternate relay settings that we turn on for wildfire safety and public safety power shutoffs, which I'm sure you've heard all about with Excel's events recently. I want to be clear, CORE has not done a PSPS, as they're called, but we do have a plan in case conditions warrant it. Alternate relay settings are something that makes our line more sensitive. So the power only goes out if something hits the line, but it trips out instantaneously to reduce the chances of ignition. It's not proactively shutting the power off like a PSPS. They are 99% effective, but they're not 100% effective at preventing ignitions. So you all saw a little earlier how bad this drought is currently and shaping up to be for the summertime. So it is a last resort measure that we have to preemptively turn off the power. And if we see this type of drought continue that's really extreme, and we get some of the really extreme wind events that we had in December and March, then we may start discussing that internally to decide if we want to take that step to try to keep the community safe. We will absolutely flood you with notification if we are planning a PSPS. We will do everything we can to make sure you know about that before we do that. And just something to note, the PSPS event lasts as long as the wind is up and high, but we still need to patrol the line once the wind dies down to make sure it's safe to re-energize. And depending on the damage we find and what we need to repair, that can take hours, or if the damage is widespread like it was in these wind events, it could be days. So I just want to prepare you for that. We don't know what's happening to our line while it's turned off. So that's why we have to do that patrol after the event and then make every repair to make sure we don't spark a fire when we turn it back on. So if you want any further information on that, I've got some printed materials back here, or you can go to our website, core.coop, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have later. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Okay, now we have our Conifer Wildland Division, and it looks like we've got John Mandel, right? Are you the only one? Okay, here he is.
Didn't mean to disappoint y'all. Good evening. Thanks for having me out here tonight. I'm John Mandel. I'm the wildland captain with Conifer Fire and also with Conifer Wildland Division, which includes Elk Creek Fire. I got just a couple quick updates for you. First off, you guys may remember back in 2021, we signed into effect our new CWPP. We are in the process of updating that. We've got a 5-year life cycle on the CWPPs, and we are working hand in hand with the county. We're developing a template that our CWPP and all other fire district CWPPs in the county will fall under the county CWPP as an addendum. So we'll use the county's data for that big landscape 30,000 foot view of our area, and then we'll break it down into what our fire district looks like and what planning units look like and stuff like that. So more on that to come, and we will be having public meetings on that, so you will all be involved. Want to talk about our home assessment program. I know a lot of you folks have had home assessments. A lot of you have been on a waiting list for home assessments. We were successful this year with a grant that funded a second position for our assessment team. So now we've got 2 people who will be out there assessing. So hopefully we can get through that backlog of folks that was generated last year. So if you've been on the list for a while, please be patient. We're in the process of training that individual up, and hopefully we'll get them, get their feet under them and get them out there solo doing these home assessments in the near future. With that, we can't stress more or enough your defensible space and your home hardening. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there's lots of information out there, and I'm going to refer you to some folks here in a moment that can actually give you a bunch of information. But no matter what your neighbor's doing, what's happening on the other side of the fence, you need to be concerned about yourself and consider everything that you can to implement your defensible space and your home hardening. So if you've got questions on that, please do come up and ask. Our chipping program, our signups have closed. We are full for the season. The chipping is now tied to our home assessment program. So folks who have had a home assessment are eligible to sign up for the lottery for the chipping. And that's how we've been running it for the last couple of years. We're finding a lot more success and a lot more changes on the landscape based on the two programs being tied together. And last but not least, I want to mention our community ambassadors. They're over here at the red table. If you don't know what a community ambassador is, that is kind of like a liaison between the fire district and you, the folks in the community. There's a lot of questions, a lot of misinformation and stuff out there about, be it fire and mitigation and all of that stuff. They are your resource for what the truth is and what the correct answers are. If you don't know who your ambassador is, come on up to the table, introduce yourself. We've got maps up here that have the entire Conifer Fire and Elk Creek Fire District laid out on there, and we can tell you what planning unit you live in, who your ambassador is, or if your planning unit does not have an ambassador. We do not have 100% coverage yet. So if you're up here looking for your ambassador and your planning unit does not have one, I highly encourage you to consider becoming an ambassador, because we need all the help and support we get, especially with how things are spooling up for this season. So if anybody has any questions, we'll be back here answering questions afterwards, and appreciate your time.
You were wonderful, all by yourself. Thank you. Okay, so the community ambassadors, if you do not know who yours is, you will get so much great information from them. So please come over to this table and find out who they are, and sign up if you can. Okay, so next we have Representative Tammy Story with a legislative update. Tammy.
Thanks so much. Good evening, everyone. What a great crowd. I'm so impressed that so many of you are so engaged and so interested in what's going on in your community, and it's incredibly important, and I think you've heard a lot of great stuff tonight. I am your state representative. I represent House District 25, which is where we are right now. The district is south of I-70 in the foothills of Jeffco, and then also a portion of unincorporated Littleton around the Chatfield High School articulation area. I've lived up here for almost 40 years. My kids were born and raised here, graduated from Conifer High School. They're on and out doing all the things that they're supposed to be doing as young adults. And we are currently in the legislature. We are approaching 3 weeks tomorrow till the end of session. Our session starts early in January, or this year I think it was kind of mid-January, so we're out around mid-May. It's 120 calendar days. And just for additional context, our budget year, our fiscal year starts on July 1st of every year and ends on July 30th. So looking back at last year, the 2025 session, during that time from January to May, we were working on the budget for the current fiscal year that started last July 1st and ends this coming June. We have to have a balanced budget in the state of Colorado. And so every year we are required to do that. Last year during the session, we had to cut about $1 billion out of our budget from what we had in terms of expenditures the previous year, because we did not have enough revenue to cover everything. So that was really tough. But then after HR 1 passed at the federal level last July 4th, the calculations were that the state was likely to lose about $1.2 billion in federal revenue. And some of that revenue also is passed on to the counties across the state. So we are a pass-through where then additional funding goes out to all the other counties. So we had to come back to a special session in August to cut another $1.2 billion out of the existing budget where we had just cut during the 2025 session. So that's where we are right now. We just wrapped up the budget week in the House at the end of last week. Now the budget is in the Senate, and we have had to cut another $1.5 billion out of the budget. So it's very tough. We know that a lot of these cuts are going to be very painful to people across Colorado. And we did our absolute best to minimize the impacts to as many people as we could. But it is going to be a tough road. And we look forward to better times coming forward. I also wanted to mention that there is going to be a graduated income tax on the ballot coming up in November. And that graduated income tax will allow for 98% of us to have a slightly lower rate than we currently do, excuse me, in our income tax. The other 2% of the most wealthy people and corporations will have a graduated income tax that goes higher and higher for every level of their income that goes up. And so if you are earning $500,000 or less annually as an individual, or $1 million as joint filers, you will have slightly lower income tax rate if we pass this graduated income tax. And that graduated income tax will give the state about $2.5 billion more of additional revenue that is not counted in the Tabor cap. So I urge you all to consider that. Happy to chat with you more about it and would love to have conversations. I appreciate all the folks that have been here talking about defensible space and home hardening. It's incredibly important that home hardening is the thing that gives you the best chance to preserve your home in a wildfire. And you should really look into talking with your local fire district and department to get that information. It's crazy important. And thanks so much for being here. I'm grateful.
Thank you, Tammy. And she talked about home hardening. I know there's lots of brochures. There's on the front table. They're over here. So if you don't know what that is, find out. It's really, really important. Okay, next we have Senator Mark Baisley to talk about that part of the legislature.
Thank you, Shirley. Great to see everybody. My name is Mark Baisley, and I represent not quite here. Senate District 4 comes up to 285, so I get the south half of Conifer, and 7 more counties beyond the south half of Jefferson County. But proud to serve and appreciate everyone coming out here tonight. So let's talk about the budget, because we have 2 constitutional requirements in the state legislature each year, and they're both budgetary. So one is to put the budget together, pass a budget, send that to the governor for K-12 schools, for education, and then the other is the general state budget. And when I entered the legislature almost 8 years ago, 7.5 years ago, in the House of Representatives, our budget at the time was $33 billion, which I thought was quite a good sum of money. Now it's $46 billion, and we're still struggling to not spend all of that. So, it averages increase about $1.5 billion every year. So to have increases every year of $1.5 billion and still overspend by $1.5 billion, to me is inexcusable, and we ought not to be doing such things. We have to be spending less, coming up with less opportunities to spend your money, and not struggle to make the ends meet in the end. But that's our duty to do. So we will end up, by the end of this week, we'll end up with a balanced budget to send to the governor. So we're going through all those arm wrestling right now, but we have never had more revenue than we do today. So that's not the issue. I promised you the last time I spoke here, this crowd, that I was going to be introducing a couple of bills that would address specifically Jefferson County issue, and that has to do with schools, where we're sitting now, and the sexual misconduct that has been in the news so much, and it's been quite an issue for Jefferson County in particular. It's other school districts, of course, as well, but there was just a particular concern here. Both of my bills to address that were killed, unfortunately, so I have to report that. I do have a good news on a bill of mine that did pass and is on its way, or sitting on the governor's office on his desk now. So I anticipate that he will sign it and perk up EMS professionals over there, because what this bill does is it designates EMS, emergency management services, as an essential service. So what that means is when we pick up the phone and dial 911 and say, here's my emergency, that dispatch person has to decide, is that a fire? Is that a law enforcement? Is that an emergency management, a healthcare kind of an issue? And then they send the right people, and we expect them to show up fast, well-equipped, and well-trained. Well, every community is required, because it is an essential service, to have a fire department, and it is an essential service to have law enforcement, but it's never been an essential service to have emergency management services. So I realized that a few years ago. Of course, EMS folks told me that. And so we have got that passed now. So that is a bill on its way to the governor, which requires communities to maintain that. Now, this is part of a 5-year study that started with a bill that I passed back when I was still in the House of Representatives towards this. So we're going to try to fund EMS appropriately. They are starving all the time, and we expect so much of them. So we're going to make them essential, and we'll make sure that they are funded properly. And last thing I'll have to share is that just this past Saturday, my party designated me as the nominee for United States Senate. So I'm asking for the promotion from State Senate to United States Senate. So I will be your state senator through the end of the year. And then I'll just want to point to that guy in the cowboy hat who I anticipate will take my place at that point. But it's just an honor to serve you all. Thank you for being here tonight. I'll hang around for any questions that you have. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Mark. So again, I want to thank everybody for being here and hope you stick around to talk to all of our speakers, all of the people. We've got the Conifer Library back here. Jared is back here, so please talk to him because there's a lot going on there. And everybody that spoke and all the departments and the community ambassadors, please stick around and talk to them. I think the takeaways for me, at least tonight, are conserve, conserve, conserve when it comes to water, defensible space, home hardening, get to know all of these programs and everything that are so vital to us. And we want to thank all of them for helping us get through this summer if it continues to be this dry. So thank you so much for coming. The next town hall meeting will be September 16th. So we'll see you this summer out in the community, I hope. Thank you so much.